Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Human-Centered Design UAE meetup. My name is Jonathan Steingesser. I'm Innovation Services Lead at the Abu Dhabi Early Childhood Authority and the founder of the meetup. Very excited to have you here at our new venue at the Polo Club, the Polo Bar. Thank you, Polo Club. Thank you, Polo Bar. Make sure you tell the boss I said thank you. Huge thank you to our partners. Where are you? Hands up. Peter, Macintosh, Jack Kidd. Where's Jack? Jack's at the bar. It's been, I think, 2 years now since we've merged and joined forces, and they've really helped to elevate the meetup, to grow the community, and done an amazing job. They have refreshed their brand just recently. They've got some really exciting things, so check out their socials. They've got some new products, new services coming. Specs.com, and if you want to do like a design critique, then feel free. They're very open to your feedback. No, I'm just joking. I love them. This session is being recorded. We have a YouTube channel. If it's your first time, welcome. If you want to catch up on the past, we've got 42 videos. Since the pandemic, we've been recording the sessions. We've been going for almost 12 years. In May, it'll be 12 years of the meetup. And this session will probably be there this weekend. We're on the socials as well as the specs. So Human-Centered Design UAE meetup on LinkedIn, and HCD UAE, and Specs Digital. So if you're taking photos, one thing I always say, and my friend and co-organizer Leopold also says this, it's not just about reading, it's about writing. We need to write, and we get better at writing the more we write. So even if you're not looking for work, but it's a great way if you are to put yourself out there, is to write an article, share your thoughts, join the conversation. So really encourage you to do that. It is not just myself. There's a lot of work that happens behind the scenes, and we've got a big welcome to Chris, who's just joined our co-organizer committee here at the front. And it's pretty amazing. We have to get a photo. Everyone's always busy and always traveling, but we do have every one of our co-organizers here tonight. Leopold, Natalie, Nada, and Chris, so make sure you don't run away at the end. We'll get a photo. Very exciting. It's a really awesome committee. We're doing a lot this year. Thank you, Natalie. She's checked all of you in. We really want to take it to the next level, improve, listen to what you want to hear as well from us, and organizing a lot of exciting things coming. I do want to share as well that Leopold is an author. He's co-authored a book recently. Really amazing. He's done a few talks on this subject for us in the past, and I'm sure he's happy to talk to you about it further. And if you want to learn how to hear yes more often, then grab that QR code. Otherwise, have a chat to Leopold as well. You can find the book on Amazon. I'm going to skip this because I had a bit of a technical glitch. Exported Google Slides to PDF, and it kept all of my hidden slides. And then it was too hard to move from Mac to PC. Anyway, another big exciting event is DDX. We are co-organizing with them a conference this year on February 15th. This is photos from last year's conference. We had a one-day conference. This year it's quite exciting. We've got 2 days, and it's a mix of the local amazing talent in Dubai as well as international talent from all over the world. I'll share a little bit more about them shortly. I went to check out the venue today. It's very cool. We're in 2 different venues. It's in Dubai Silicon Oasis at the Radisson Red on the 15th. And we're gonna have I think 3 sessions at the same time. So you can choose between workshop or the main stage. And on the second day, on the Sunday, it's just one stream at the Sofitel downtown. Very much encourage you. And the theme of our conference is about innovation, making an impact. It's not just about your AI, your technology, but what's the impact that we're really making, and how do we make that impact and really make a difference, right, to the lives of those we're designing for. We've got speakers from Meta, Amazon, as well as a lot of familiar faces you can see here. Big contingent from Kareem coming. Tim made it. Thank you, Tim, for making it. Tim's at the back. He's going to run a really interesting workshop on AI and how do you simplify something as complex as data science and AI with Lego. So very exciting. Tim's in the back with the red jacket, as well as, yeah, a lot of other faces that you probably know. We've got a discount code that expires tomorrow. We've been running this code for a while. It's actually, oh, these are some old slides. I don't know what happened here. 159, whatever that is. I don't know, in dirham. Actually, I don't think that's accurate anymore. That might be wrong. But anyway, the QR code is there. I'll leave it for a second. You can find it. Just remember HCD20. You can find DDX Dubai if you do a Google search for it quite easily. And I think that's it. I don't know what happened. Apologies. It did not happen in rehearsal. So I want to talk to you very quickly about tonight, and then I'll just bring our panelists on board. It was kind of an alignment of the universe. My wife, Beck, Dr. Rebecca, has come to a few meetups over the last 5 years, not usually. And she did ask me, is mental health something designers talk about? Is it something that's relevant to the community? And having personally gone through the roller coaster of Dubai, like I'm sure a lot of you have, I said, yes, in fact it is. And she suggested, could I come maybe on the panel or on the meetup and maybe organize something? Round about the same time last year, Heba had wanted to speak, and also Jack connected me to her, thank you, Jack, and said, I want to talk about this subject. And the universe kind of aligned. So we've got a really interesting meetup for you tonight. So without further ado, I want to welcome to the stage our host for tonight, Leopold Ajami. And I'll let him introduce and bring our panelists.
Test. All right, welcome. This is going to be hard. I have something to share with you. I thought today we have two brave ladies, so why not? I'll give it a shot. So, before I introduce them, 7 years ago, my wife called me. And she was so excited, and she's like, babe, I'm like, what? She's like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, wow. Damn. You know, I was so excited, but at the same time, I felt terrified. Guess why? Because on the same day, I got fired from my company. No, you don't get it. From my company. Okay, I was the founder and co-founder of a company, and my business partner fired me for malicious reasons, which is a story for another day. However, he was not just my business partner. He was my best friend for 15 years. And if now you come to my house and you look at my album, my wedding album, you'll see him standing right beside me as my best man. So I'm sharing this just to tell you that you could imagine the pain, the struggle, the stress, you name it, the mental chaos that I went through during that period. However, because of a community just like this, so I am part of a philosophy community, and they reminded me of a concept or an idea that I'll never forget. They said, never let the pain take more than it deserves. I want to repeat that so it's easy. Never let the pain take more than it deserves. And from that day, I formulated this principle that I now call the untouched point. You see, pain will come, stress will come, burnout will come, problems will come. They will visit, right? The only question is, will they stay? Right? What's that untouched point that you're not willing to be touched by anyone or anything? Now, I have an answer to that, but I'm not going to share it now. I'm going to tease you a little bit, and I'll tell you what I think about that at the end of the session. All right? For now, allow me to introduce our esteemed panelists. I'll start with Dr. Rebecca Steingeiser. Am I pronouncing it right? No. Tell me. Okay. So, Dr. Rebecca is an Australian qualified clinical neuropsychologist and clinical psychologist with over 15 years of experience. Currently, she's based at King's College Hospital in Dubai. Dr. Rebecca works with children, adolescents, and adults. She specializes in neuropsychological and psychoeducational assessment and provides therapy for mood disorder, self-harm, chronic pain, eating disorder, addiction, and more. Please welcome Dr. Rebecca. I can never pronounce that company name. And also I want to introduce Heba Isa. Heba specializes in the intersection of strategic design, innovation, and foresight, focusing on creating a better tomorrow through intelligent and sustainable solutions. With a passion for smart city development and smart government initiatives, her expertise lies in guiding organizations through the complexities of modern public service design. Please welcome Heba Isa. Wait, can you hear me in the back? Yeah? All right, so thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I want to start with something. By the way, just a few things. I want this to be interactive as possible. However, just small thing. If you have a question or you want to make a comment, you're welcome to do so. Just as much as possible, make it brief. Okay, so because we're limited in time, so make it brief, make it sharp, and this way we can get the best out of our panelists. Okay, I want to start with something that, you know, when we talk about mental health, we always think about the lack of, right, the symptoms of not having a good mental health. So can you help me transport myself into the future and paint for me what does a person who has a healthy mind look like?
Want me to start?
Huh?
Would you like me to start?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Feel free to cut in at any time. It's a very good question because it's actually something that very few people ask. Everyone comes in to my clinic and will ask me, you know, I just want to feel better, I want to be well, I want to understand what is going wrong with me or what are my challenges and make sense of it so I don't ever have to experience this pain or this suffering or this dis-ease for any longer. And I will always, and the first thing I will always say is that we can't avoid suffering in life. It's one of the most critical components of being human. It'll happen to us when we expect it, when we don't expect it at all, in all parts of our life, in all aspects. But one of the biggest things that we can do is to develop coping skills, to develop lifestyle habits, coping strategies and lifestyle habits that promote wellness, that promote mental health. So that when you are faced with challenges, when you are going through difficult times, you actually have a skill set that you can tap into that can assist you. So I always look at mental health as a component of your overall wellness. And wellness doesn't just include, you know, going to a therapist. Mental health very much focuses on what you do in your day-to-day in between that. So that's healthy lifestyle. That's being able to talk about your problems. That's being open, finding the right people to speak to and to connect with. And ultimately not being ashamed of recognizing when you need support and reaching out when you do.
I love that. So it doesn't seem impossible.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, I want to add something to what you said, Rebecca, and thank you for having me on this panel. I think a mentally healthy person has the resilience to navigate challenges. So whatever life throws at you, you know how to navigate it, and you trust yourself to know how to navigate it. I think that's the most important thing, and I think that's something that you learn through time and through the challenges that gets thrown at you. So yeah, I think that.
Okay, I want to play the devil's advocate a little bit. Okay, I want to be a bit annoying. I hear that a lot. What can I do? What can I do to build that, that skill? So I'm well in my mind. I'm finding balance. I'm living well. I know there's a lot, and it's very contextual. But is there something that we should do on a daily basis that will bring us closer to that state?
I think it always starts with an analysis of your core values and checking with yourself on a regular basis, am I living a life that is in line with those core values? And whatever those core values are, if it's family, if it's success, or if it's just a pleasure in life, whatever those facets are, am I living a life that is in line with those? And what can I do more of or less of? Or what do I need to cut out of my life that is steering me away from living a life that is aligned with those core values? And that is a stepwise process. It requires a lot of introspection. I think being able to sit down with yourself and reflect on a regular basis, which is not something we're very good at. We're very much driven by productivity and doing, and not about slowing down and thinking. And from my various times coming to some of these meetups, I mean, there are loads of texts that Jonathan has at home about, slowing down, thinking properly. Design is a slow process, and it should be in many ways. But at the same time, we're always looking for the end goal. How do we actually get to a point of satisfaction and feeling good within our lives? And I think that's the problem. We're always looking for the end point, and there isn't one. It's a journey, and it's about putting regular effort, regular work into building yourself. And if that goal is, I want to be fitter in 2025, or I want to spend more quality time with my family, or I want to remove social media apps from my phone so I can be more present. I want to do less doom scrolling and more growing, and whatever that involves. I think it all starts with finding out where am I drifting, and how am I drifting away from those core values, and how do I bring myself to a healthy balance and to be anchored where I feel satisfied.
Before I move to you, I want to hear from you guys. Raise your hand if you've ever sat down and wrote exactly what are your values. Oh wow. Okay. And did it help? Can anyone share if it helped? Yeah.
So we only have 3 minutes.
100%.
Why?
Because I would say it works as your North Star metric, now that we're all designers and product, because you always have something to look up into. And the fact that you're gonna forget it. If you don't write it, you're gonna forget it. You're gonna get lost. Life is tough. Life is gonna hit you. So when you write that down somewhere and you put the time to go back to it, it's like, oh, now I know why did I start. And it's such a core value that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that, for example, if I go back to it like in a year or two, I'm still gonna have that value, and that's still gonna be my North Star metric. I'm gonna find my way.
Thank you for that. Hiba?
Does being a designer help? So Dr. Rebecca talked about values, slowing down and thinking, and introspection, which is one of my favorite tools ever. Does being a designer help you think about your values, craft them, introspecting, or no?
I think being a designer, you're driven by empathy. we use empathy a lot in our work, and I think that introspection comes from empathy. In the end, it comes from empathy for yourself. So I think that's ingrained in the work that we do. And it's also an acquired skill. You're not born mentally healthy. It's something that you learn. So you need to work on yourself and read books and learn, but also use the empathy that we use with our user, use it towards ourselves as well.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, so we often forget how to use our design skills on ourselves. That's what you're saying. Okay, I love that. All right, I want to shift a little bit to signs. What are these signs of stress, burnout, anxiety, feeling anxious? What are the first signs that we should be aware of?
I might take this one first, if that's okay, and then you can dive in. I think every single person here will have had an experience of anxiety that leads to burnout or depression, grief, loss, the works. And it presents differently in different people. Some people might find that they have more of a tendency to avoid or to overcompensate when they're feeling stressed, and they will overwork, overdo, do too much, and then get to their point of truly burning out much sooner. Other people might start with feeling like difficulty sleeping, falling asleep, staying asleep, waking up very early in the morning, unable to fall asleep, get off to sleep without overthinking. Some people it's weight changes, weight gain, weight loss, unexpected as well. It sometimes even comes up in medical tests. Majority of the time it does. Many of the patients I see at King's Hospital will come to me as referrals from all the different specialties. So we have cardiology referrals, pulmonology, neurology, where they've done all the tests and they can not identify any underlying organic or medical reason for their challenges. And they will then be referred to me because ultimately the level of stress and anxiety they're experiencing in their life has a significant impact on their day-to-day functioning. Most people who are experiencing anxiety will say it's incredibly debilitating when it's at its extreme. And it impacts every single aspect of your life. From how engaged and present you can be with your loved ones, how productive you can be, your attention, your concentration, your focus, your reasoning, memory, everything can change and be affected by anxiety and stress.
Just so as a follow-up, why does it feel like it's out of control? And I know that because I talk to people sometimes, why are you stressed, take a break. You don't understand, I'm really stressed, I cannot do anything about it. So what, is there a scientific reason why we feel overwhelmed by it and it's out of our free will, if you want, or control?
I think it very much depends on a person's coping resources. Some people are more optimistic and generally have a more positive outlook, so when they get hit by challenges in life, it takes them a little bit longer for them to be feeling like they're drowning. Whereas others are more negative, more pessimistic, more vulnerable, I would say, emotionally vulnerable. They're people who have highly sensitive personalities. It comes from so many different aspects. Your genetics is also a very strong predisposing factor to the level of anxiety that you experience. The environment that you live in and the environment that you work in, predominantly the environment that you work in, because that's where you spend the majority of your life. If you're surrounded by stressed people or in a very stressful environment, no matter what your baseline is, you will eventually meet the equilibrium that is based around you.
I would like to add to your point, Rebecca. I think what makes it really difficult is the negative emotions that we feel, and we get scared by those negative feelings, and we just want them to go away. But we need to process it first, and then it will go away. So I think the main thing that's making it really hard is how we feel. And we are driven by our emotions. Even if we write down our values, what drives our values is our emotions, is how we feel about those values. So it all comes down to how you navigate your emotions and how you can balance like the negative emotions with positive emotions to back them up and to not go into the roller coaster of negative thoughts and
To add to that, I think we're constantly trying to balance the two minds. There's the rational mind and the emotional mind, and the sweet spot is when those two minds overlap. And it's a very, very hard place to get to when you are either a predominantly rational thinker who doesn't allow emotion in, or versus the people who are overly emotional and then can't reason through their problems. And sometimes speaking to to your partners or loved ones or colleagues, you might find that they have different perspectives and different takes on things. And that's what I find is so effective, is talking through your problems with someone who might be maybe a bit able to be a bit more rational in this context, or able to help you access the emotional component of it and really realize that the depth or the impact of what you're going through has. So I think that's an important thing to consider, is how you communicate that to understand how you can cope better with it.
I want to stop on something here. The relationship between values and emotion. In your view, do values drive emotions, or emotion drive values?
I think Heba put it really well. I think actually it's a dual relationship. I think our values are very much driven by our families and the people that we're raised with and how we are raised. But I also think that as our individual personalities evolve, we develop a different set of values. Some of us are more predisposed to being more sensitive, more emotional, and then that guides us. I just don't think that we're very good at sensing and trusting our gut, our instinct. So we can be very black and white in what we see. So if we think that, oh no, my emotions are driving this, but you think or assume you're feeling a certain way about something, when really that's driven by somebody else around you, or what their perspective is, or what their goals or values are. So I think it's a dual relationship there.
But if I articulated my values, let's suppose I said optimism towards life is one of my highest values, let's say, right? This will affect my emotion and my response towards, let's say, stress, right? So, but the opposite is not true. So if I'm already optimistic towards life and I face stress and I feel stress, I can, like Fatma said, the values become my North Star. I can go back to my values.
Yes, and especially when you find yourself off the path or off the equilibrium, you use that compass to help you find that North Star. It just grounds you and helps you kind of reflect on, where am I going? Why am I doing this job? Why am I working for this boss? Why am I in this relationship? Why am I entertaining this friendship when it's not adding value to my life, and in fact it's steering me further and further away from my true north?
Okay, I want to take two comments from the audience. I'm interested to see if you think your role as a designer affects your mental health more than any other job, or it's just another job and the effect is the same. Who would like to? Yeah.
I mean, if we are talking about empathy, like, designers are, I think, more prone to needy. But honestly, personally, I wouldn't say that designers specifically are more, we have the toughest jobs and we tend to get mentally unhealthy more. I think everybody has their own struggles, right? Consulting have their own problems, products have their own problems. I think, yeah, if we are doing empathy towards our customers and our users, why not have empathy towards all the other job fields? Like, that's my personal opinion.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Do you see?
Thank you. From my journey as a designer, from beginning as a junior up to creative director level, as a designer, right from the get-go, it was finding a passion. That was my role as a designer. But to create that passion, whatever I created, I always put a piece of myself into it. A piece of my soul was into that design, even if it was terrible. You know, even if it wasn't the best bit of work I've ever done. And then someone has to, at some point, critique that, whether it's your manager, a colleague, a client, and to be able to take that. And it took me, I'd say 10 years before I started to really kind of understand they weren't attacking me as a person. And then also probably another 3 more years after that to really understand actually everything that they always come back to me with makes it a better end process. But as designers, I honestly believe that most good designers have to be passionate about what they do. So therefore, you have to be a bit vulnerable. Therefore, you do feel, that you got under attack. And side thing to that, trying to keep it short for you, is that also in the process of work, a designer is more often than not at the end of that linear journey of what the ask is and what the result is in the output. We're always that last thing before it goes to print, before it gets published online, before it gets created, before it gets 3D printed, whatever it be. So therefore, the stress levels, you by proxy take on everyone's stress levels, because if something's delayed, it comes to us at the end, really delayed, and we have to deal with that. And then it's always, as all designers, I'm sure everyone here is designers, always had a last minute ask more times than they really want to, and to deal with that is also a stress. So there you go, right? But that's where your North Star from yourself is what you're talking about from a personal perspective, but also from a work perspective. If you can go out there and try to manage that, which designers aren't very good at, certainly junior designers, is to manage the people and go to them and say, look, do you realize what this is causing to me? If you guys can plan a little bit better, give me more of a heads up, and be respectful of what I have on my plate, then you can be better, because it's the surprise, right? The surprise is what causes you the anxiety and stress, because suddenly it's like, oh, I'm going home in an hour. No, you're not. You've just been given 8 hours worth of work. Oh my God. So there's some tools there I think we can probably use to help that.
Thank you. That's very valuable.
We were talking backstage, and I want to give the mic to Hiba, but there was this idea that oftentimes designers think about their job or their designs as their identity, right? So if a client is saying no to the design, he's actually saying no to me as a person. Now, of course, not all of us, but that's the general sense I got. So I want to hear from you, Hiba. First, is that true most of the time, and how does it affect you? And
Yeah, as a designer, I've been doing design for maybe like 10 years or something, maybe a bit more than that, 12 years. And I think part of why we put our hearts into it is because there is a certain amount of self-expression in our designs, and that's why we carry a lot of our worth. We put a lot of our worth as designers into our work, and that comes more often when you're a junior. But when you're more senior, you start to realize that design serves a purpose, and that purpose is for a client. It's not for you, and you need to create detachment, and that detachment is what's gonna serve you, and it's what's gonna create that balance and not taking those not letting those critiques hurt you. You need to put a barrier so it doesn't hurt you as a designer, and it doesn't affect your creative confidence, because when if we let those critiques get to us, we will lose our creative confidence, and it's not gonna serve our purpose as designers.
I want to hear
your point of view here, but before I do that, I need a volunteer to help us with something. Who would like to come stand next to me? Someone else? You'd like? Okay, please. You wanna tell me what to do?
Okay, so
We have an experimentation.
have a little experiment. What I'd like you to do is hold this bottle of water in your hand and cup it like this, and just hold it out as arms stretched out, and just keep doing that. And we will come back to you shortly. Now you're wishing that you didn't, but you have to keep that arm straight.
Keep an eye on her, please.
All right. So
We'll just continue. Yeah.
you can turn towards us if you want. So
She's
don't
gonna give us a look.
She's like, I wish I didn't volunteer. All right, so back to this point, I want to hear your scientific angle. What is there or should there be a link between our work and our identity? And if yes or no, how does it affect our mental health?
I think it's inevitable that there will be a connection between the two. Because everything that you study, everything you train for, everything you do in your day-to-day life should hope that you put passion and love into it. And I mean, the biggest thing that comes to mind was when I had to submit my doctorate thesis that I worked 3.5 years on. And that was the most excruciating experience. I mean, it felt like I literally birthed a human being in the sense that I put so much of my life into it. And then for someone else to review it, to critique it, to assess it, to determine if it's good enough, really felt like, are they going to tell me that I'm not good enough? And it's terrifying. I feel this way in my clinical practice all the time. Are my clients happy? Do they like me? Are they getting better? Am I providing, a different angle for them? Am I just like every other therapist they've been to see? How can I be better? We're constantly working to grow and to evolve and to be better, but we need validation. The most important thing that humans need is to feel important and to feel valued. And that is what I think we should all be looking for in our relationships, in our work experiences, everything. But we don't always get that, and we don't always get that externally. So one of the most important things that we need to work on is providing that internal validation. So if we are the type of person who's very self-critical, who spends a lot of time overanalyzing, overthinking, never feeling good enough, any time that you do get a rejection, and it's not a rejection of you, it's a rejection of of what you've produced or what you together as a team might have produced, it's impossible not to take it personally. But the difference between taking something personally and letting it break you is knowing that you're good enough irrespective, and that you have your own internal intrinsic value irrespective of that outcome. That your worth exists irrespective of whether that person breaks up with you, or whether you get that job or didn't get that job, or you got an A or you didn't, or you got into that university or you didn't. Ultimately, I think it's a very difficult thing to cope with, but it is part of what develops your resilience. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that your self-compassion is a big part of developing your resilience. So the more you practice self-compassion, the more likely you are to be able to handle those setbacks in life. But it is inevitable that you're going to feel that connection, especially if you are good at what you do and you are passionate.
Okay, I want to zoom
I feel
in.
bad for her now. She's giving me that face.
Oh, you're still here?
Oh yeah. Okay, just keep going. You're doing a great job.
Exactly, I should have done that before.
How is it feeling?
So, can I say my take on this? So, typically I feel like now that I'm holding something and it's painful. So, I'm trying to focus, but this is taking a lot of energy from me. So technically it means that we have to leave our stress and anxiety, let's stop putting that much energy into it so that we can focus on what we have to do. And I hope that take is great and this time is over and I can just go.
It's a very good analysis.
Analyze that more, please.
I feel like we give you permission to put it down because you hit the nail on the head there. That was very well done. Yes, that's exactly the right analysis, is that the longer you hold something, it doesn't matter what weight it is, the harder it is to hold. And ultimately, we sometimes need someone just to stop and pay attention to us and say, how are you feeling right now with that? I don't know if any of you manage teams or have the experience of being managed, I'm sure. How often do we ask one another, how are we going with things? We ask, how are you today? How are you feeling? What's going on in your life? But how are you feeling with this task? What are you liking about this? What are you not liking about this? What's difficult about this? I don't think we do enough of that for one another, and they definitely don't do enough of that for ourselves. So I think it's an important question to ask. Can I put this down? Do I need to hold this? How long do I need to hold this for? Can I ask someone else to hold it for me for a bit? Would that make the load feel a little bit lighter?
You know what? Can we take a 1 minute break and do this exercise? Just you talk to each other and ask yourself this one question.
Holding the bottle.
No, how are you feeling today? Would that be a good question, or do you have a better one?
I think it's a good starting point. How are you feeling today?
Yeah.
What were the challenges about your day? What was your least favorite part of the day? Also, what was your favorite part of the day?
Okay, let's take a minute. I want to test something here. Let's take a minute, talk to each other if you want, and just ask yourself these questions. How was your day? What are the challenges? What did you like, didn't like? Want to try that? Yeah. No, I want you to talk to
We
each other.
already had this conversation earlier, so we're done.
Come join us, Natalie. It's cold, so we get nice.
Okay.
Nice
Well, I loved everything about my day.
How was your day, Natalie?
Amazing.
Yeah?
Where did you dislike about nothing? Really?
Where did you stay at home today and work from home?
No, I worked with a
Did you-
client, came back. It was busy, but I've taken on a new philosophy in life.
What's that?
I never complain.
That's great.
I'm gonna hold you to that.
No. I also my husband, I'm like, don't complain to me. I don't want to hear your complaints because it's a waste of time. Come to me with solutions and I'll help you with your solution. But don't come to me and complain. I realise that complaining is the biggest time waster on the planet.
But what about describing a challenge? that
Yes, but
he
it's different
seeks-
from complaining.
True.
Because then you're asking, you're
But don't you
engaging
think
with someone saying, help me
sometimes
with that.
it depends on the thing, but do you not think you're sometimes like stopping him, for example, from it's healthy to
Express himself.
not just express, but just to vent sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to like like you and I, because we worked together
Yeah.
before, like, we met each other and we worked together. Now we're friends. Like sometimes it's good to just have a good vent. Just get out of like Chris and I, we work very closely together. Sometimes it's like get it out of the system. Okay, now let's go. But you need like if you don't do that, you're just bottling deep
But it's the
inside.
way that I think it's how you vent. So if you're just venting just to complain, then again it's unproductive. So I just changing that, because I'm not saying that I never complained about it. I complain. I just realised it was just bad use of my time. It actually didn't solve problems really. So, and then if someone asks me how is my day, even if it is a bit shitty, I say no, it's amazing, because the
All
mindset
right.
has to be.
Anyone would like
If
to
it's a
share?
shitty day, then you're going to have a really shitty day.
One more minute. I love it.
One more.
Okay, go ahead.
What about you? How was your-
okay. Yeah.
It was
What was your least favorite thing?
sorry.
What was your least favorite thing of your energetic day?
Today, the rental car I was using. It was yeah, never get to accidents, because if you do, then it's a headache. But at the same time, I'm grateful that I'm living in this country, that everything's so easy. I'm just dropping my car. And
You said something really important. I don't think we don't think enough of the present and be grateful for the tiny things that happen in the day. We don't. It's the last thing that we think about.
Exactly.
What are you grateful about today?
You're right. And then if you think about the day, to default and go to complain is not a good thing. You should say, actually, there was some amazing things happening. I happened to get the last triathlete jersey in my size in the middle of nowhere in Dubai, and
All right,
everything online was
finally,
sold
you guys
out.
are
So that's the positive. Not tell you about
On
it.
the-
There was a little negative. So what? Like, and
Okay,
it's great. Now
who
you
would
can
like to share?
go to your beach near your house and try it out.
Yes, please.
Focus,
I'll just pass the mic so that.
Oh, okay.
I thought it was going to be a good thing to share because it's short. So the best part of my day was also the worst part of my day. So it was going to the gym. Before I went, it was couldn't be bothered. The day was long. I had a lot to do, and then coming there an hour before I left to come here was thinking, I don't want to do this. But as soon as I left, it turned into the best thing I ever did. So short and sweet.
Anyone else like to share? You're next.
Give it to someone else.
Who was next?
Hi. So we took it a slightly different direction because why not? One of the things that Rebecca said really stuck with me because I've been to a lot of talks about mental health and things like that. But the one thing you just said, which was about asking people not how they feel, but how they feel with a certain task. And we are in the position where I work now, where we got a new leader, we're kind of in that position where he starts changing everything. And the interesting thing is it's going to take the team from performing at a certain level and having always been told, nah, we're not really interested in the exciting creative design you can do, instead we just want it done tomorrow. You have till tomorrow, do whatever you can. Design fits in whatever time you give it, but it's never as good as you want it to be if it's a one-day thing rather than a one-week thing. And I think the takeaway for me here really is, and the conversation we were just having, is asking that question, where do you sit with this task? Like, are you okay? Are you stressed about it? Do you need some help with it? Like, do you need more time? Do you need more, whatever it is? I think that's really, really nice. I really think that's something that I'm going to take into practice starting.
Nice.
So thank you for that.
Awesome.
Who else wanted to share? Natalie? Everyone's scared now. No pressure now.
Yeah, we spoke about a few things. One of them was that in general we're not, who mentioned, was it you, Heba, about not being grateful, thinking about what you were grateful for the day, and thinking of those first before thinking of what went bad in your day. And when you analyze it at the end of the day, or also at the beginning of the day, it sets you off to a good start, and it also ends your day well as well. And then another thing that I feel that has really worked out for me is to stop complaining.
But it's hard.
It's hard, but I've taken a massive shift in my approach to life, because when you stop complaining and start thinking of solutions, then you're able to utilize your time much more. So that was another thing we spoke about. And Fatima, what was another thing you had mentioned?
The ones that we can categorize. So we're not going to stop complaining. We're going to say that, but it doesn't come from this space of excuses.
Yeah.
Because complaints sometimes you just want to take it out and then.
Yeah, so Jonathan was talking about venting, but isn't it good to vent? And I'm like, I know Jonathan very well, and he can vent. He's the master of venting. But for me, that doesn't help me. It maybe can help for Jonathan, but it doesn't help for me. And I utilize, instead of venting, use that time to find another way to solve the problem. Use it as a project to solve. But Jonathan's also grateful today, weren't you? You were grateful today.
Yeah, I guess the point I was making, it depends on the person, but like Chris and I don't know where he disappeared to, but we often share the drive to Abu Dhabi. And even when we don't, even if we're on Zoom, we find it healthy to just get the venting kind of out of the way, because otherwise you're bottling it down. I think it's a beautiful idea to just be in the solutions, but I think it's kind of human nature. So again, it's not with everyone, but when there's psychological safety, when there's trust, then it's kind of how him and I gel. It's like we both need to, especially in the environment where we're in, where we can't necessarily vent to others.
I don't want to be in the car with you.
Then it's just healthy for us to kind of get out of the way and then say, okay, now head down, now let's focus on yours.
I definitely agree with that. I have to say that we all go to different people for different things. So we all have that friend who is a very patient listener who will just let you vent and not give you anything constructive from it, but like, that sounds hard, or, just to kind of validate your experience, or even normalize your experience. Like, oh yeah, in the conversations that Jonathan and Chris might have, it's like, I feel the same way, then you don't feel so alone. But if the venting, or if you call it just processing, is more harmful in that it actually creates more stress and distress, it builds on the stress and distress, then it doesn't actually provide any comfort, then it's not very valuable. But it depends on who you go to and what you're going to them for and what you're expecting. If you want to go to Natalie for some solutions, then you know who to speak to. If you want to go to someone to vent, then you know who to go to. And I think it all depends on who you're in, who's in your circle, and we all need those different personas in our circle.
Well, what if there are no people in our circle. And I want to go here to Hiba and ask you, have you ever felt that you want to speak up? There's something, bothering you, but you couldn't? And how does it feel like?
Okay, I'm gonna share a very personal story, and I'm gonna be vulnerable here, but this is a trigger warning. So if anyone feels triggered, just brace yourself. I remember when I first moved here to Dubai. It was 2019, like 6 years ago, and it was the first time for me to be away from my family, even away from my country, and to live somewhere else where they don't speak Arabic. And for the first time, I found out that maybe I'm not that good in English. I didn't know how to communicate in English, and the company that I joined had like these amazing designers, and everyone knows how to like communicate how good they are with their designs, and I felt helpless. Like, how am I going to compete with all of these good designers? And I know I am a good designer, but I've never had to be like that affluent about my skills, and talk about myself and my skills. I've never done that. And back in Egypt, I worked in like multinational companies, in IBM and like some multinational companies, but I never had to deal with that amount of competitiveness that's here in Dubai. So it was very hard for me to cope with that and to find my own voice in the middle of all this chaos. And our team was like 12 designers, and everyone is good at something. And it was very hard for me to find a place in the middle of these people. But what really made it even more difficult was that as soon as I settled down here in Dubai, I discovered that I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I was shocked when the doctor told me. I was shocked, and I was alone. Like, I was in the clinic. I thought it was just just a mammogram. It's probably nothing. But when the doctor told me, I felt, for the first time, I felt like I'm alone. Oh my God, I'm alone in a completely new country. My family's not with me, and there's no one. And I was completely, that was like one of the loneliest moments that I've felt here in Dubai. And I didn't even know how to tell my family. I didn't tell them until I had my surgery. But before that, I was trying to keep it a secret, and I tried to keep it a secret even from my team. No one from the team knew until I had my chemo. And even then, I only told my manager, and I told him not to let anyone know. And I felt, at that time, I felt like that exercise, I felt like like it was too hard for me to carry on my own. And when I spoke to my manager and I told him, he finally understood, because it was impacting my productivity, it was impacting my ability to design, and they never knew, like, why are you being that incompetent, or like, why are you were not like this when we interviewed you. What happened? No one knew it, because I was keeping it to myself. But it's important to let it out and to vent, like you said. And gradually I told my friends at work, and eventually they knew. But also what made it even worse was COVID, because that was right before COVID. So there was COVID, there was the cancer, there was this new country, and like I was in the middle of all these, it was like a roller coaster. My first year here in Dubai was like a roller coaster.
Hiba, first, thank you so much for sharing this vulnerable story. It takes courage, and thank you. It means a lot. But I want you to take me there. Take me there to that moment where you're sitting on your desk, people asking you all these requests, which is normal, for people commenting on your work, but inside you, you're saying, but I have this, bloody cancer. So take me to that moment. How did you feel? And what did you tell yourself?
I remember I was on my chemo bed and working, because chemo takes like 5 hours. So you just put the chemo, and I was working, and I had a client call. Of course, they don't know, and I'm not sharing my my video. And they were giving me feedback on the designs, and they were telling me, no, change this, do this. And at that time, I wanted to speak up and say, I'm in pain. Like, I can't really do what you're asking me to do because I'm in pain. But at that time, I thought about what I said about the design is a purpose. The design serves a purpose, and I thought, okay, maybe I am here in this situation because I need to serve as a purpose, and the purpose is to send them a message about like that those changes in their designs is gonna harm more. It's gonna do more harm than good. So I communicated that to the client, and I made some changes, but not everything that they said. But I think I took the time to breathe and to like detach and not really feel like they are rejecting me, because I was in a vulnerable situation. And when you're in a vulnerable situation, it's hard to detach, because I was already and I think yeah, it's just I took a moment to breathe, and I remembered that, okay, I'm serving a purpose for this client. Let's just do whatever needs to be done. And yeah.
Did the client ever find out that you were sick?
After the project ended.
How did they react to that?
They said they didn't really feel that something was happening. So I took that as a positive sign. Yeah, they didn't really feel anything, except for like I was maybe away for long times, but they didn't really feel. So.
How hard or how effective it is to hide such a vulnerable state? Should we hide it? Should we share it? Should we escape from it mentally? Like, what can one do?
I think it very much depends on the environment that you're in, and some people are very afraid of being vulnerable. They're very afraid of the rejection that might come with that, or the feeling of, oh, I'm now a burden, or I'm going to be seen as sort of a dead weight that needs to be carried, and that is terrifying, because I guess when you come here, you're passionate about what you do, you want to keep that job, you want to do everything you can to be seen as competent, and to admit that you're not okay can in some way feel as though you're admitting that you're struggling or that you're failing in some way, which I think anybody who to hear your story would say that absolutely not. I mean, you deserved all the time off, and the compassion and the empathy that I think you eventually got from people around you. It would have been nice to know that they felt that way about you at the beginning, and all the work in holding that bottle up and trying to keep up this facade or this impression of you being okay when you were not okay would have been incredibly painful. And yes, it built your resilience. I'm sure it's made you a much stronger person, but I also imagine that it maybe has made you more likely to speak up when you're going through something difficult ahead of the time.
Yeah, and I think having the courage to communicate that, I think it would have made a difference, because as soon as I told my manager and the HR, they stopped my project, and they told me, no, you have to rest. This is serious. And I think because I am a people pleaser and I take a lot of pride in what I do, I refrained from telling anyone, and I carried all the load alone. But you shouldn't do that. You should communicate, and I think that made me learn about how to communicate even like your mental health boundaries. Like for example, if you are like easily distracted by noises, you need to be in a meeting room to focus. Like these small things, you need to communicate them to your manager. And at my recent company that I joined, I was part of an initiative where some designers we were working on a project for neurodivergence in design. So how can we accommodate different neurodivergence like ADHD and dyslexia and all these mental states? How can we accommodate them? How can we train the managers to accommodate to these different mental states? So I think it served its purpose, that experience, and I learned that it's okay to communicate your mental health needs.
Also, just to add to that, I think many of us are people pleasers and we just want everyone to be happy with us. But when we find that our people-pleasing tendencies end up superseding our ability to please ourselves, I guess that's when we lose our true north. And coming back to, no one will take care of you as well as you can take care of yourself if you know how to. And you have to put yourself first because other people won't necessarily do that for you. You will find that there are a lot of people out there who are willing to and have a lot of empathy. But let's face it, anyone here today would probably have had an experience of working in a very toxic work environment where there is a huge fear of speaking up and a huge fear of saying, I don't like this, or this doesn't work for me, or I'm struggling with something. It's not always the most supportive environment. So I think it depends on who you work for, what the culture is in the workplace that you're in, and maybe more intimately, who's within your closest circle in the workplace that can help you and guide you and even be an advocate for you in those moments.
Yeah, because it's so easy to say speak up like as an advice, but there are consequences, and I've seen it firsthand. People get advices like, yeah, go speak up. They speak up. The next day they have a problem at work, politics, whatever. So I don't know what's the solution, but I feel that probably, correct me if I'm wrong, probably speaking up should be one of the values that we should highlight in the beginning of our hiring process.
It's a very big part of your own self-care, is advocating for yourself. And being compassionate to yourself is about standing up for yourself and expressing your needs, because no one else will know what those are. People are not mind readers. And many people tell me, I have a team member and they complained that I was working them too hard, but they didn't actually tell me that they were struggling. And then the team member said, but I told you I was in therapy. And the manager's like, well, that could be about anything. How am I supposed to know that's specifically to do with work? And because of so many concerns around privacy and not wanting to pry and ask too many questions, we do need to be very literal and very specific and precise in what we're speaking about and what we feel like we need help with. Because people will inevitably feel like they're failing other people if they're not actually told how they can be helpful to them. What makes me a better manager, what makes me better for you, is a question that we should be asking to the people we manage, but also that they should be asking us. I need for you to be better manager for me by doing X, Y, and Z.
Okay, awesome. Last segment, so we talked about mental health in general. We zoomed in a little bit to some situations that designers face. I want to zoom in to one last point on not just designers, but designers as expats. And I think, and we talked a bit about it, there's some role that you being, or all of us being expats here, play in our mental health, and how we approach it, and this whole psychological pressure that I'm living here, but will this ever be my home? Right? So can you talk a bit about that? Does it play the geographical place, this idea of being an expat? Does it play a role that affects negatively our mental health? You can talk about it from a your-
psychological, yeah,
and
sure.
You can explore situations with you.
I think it's a very unique experience being an expat. I grew up as a third culture kid, so I moved around a lot growing up. And every change is difficult in its own right. But I think specifically about living in a place like Dubai where everyone, or the majority of the people you come across in your day-to-day is also an expat, everyone is having the same shared experience. So the cultural melting pot of a place like Dubai also makes it very difficult because we're coming at this world from a completely different angle, from our different cultures, our different religions, our different identities, languages, way people work together, and different cultures, band together and prefer to speak their own languages and things like that. And that can be very affronting for people who are not used to that. I also think that while we are here, we're also not completely separated from our lives back home. So many of us will have aging parents, will have family members who are far from us. Feeling homesick, feeling really alone when you're going through something as significant as what Heba went through. It's quite a terrifying place. The sense of unpredictability about Dubai, I think, is a big one. Tomorrow it could rain and our cars could be flooded. Who knows? There's new roads being built, and who knows what redirections we'll have tomorrow. But also the workplace is very unpredictable. It's all depending on so many different factors that are outside of our control. And I think as an expat, we really need to focus on what is within our circle of control. And if you draw like yourself as a little stick figure and you draw all the different circles and the people of importance and the things that you can actually impact, you realize that there's very, very little that you can do about what goes on around you. And I think that's really difficult. Usually when you're home, you've got your network, you've got your support, you've got your community. Many people feel very displaced here, very alone. It's difficult to make friends. Sometimes your workplace is not a very friendly place, so creating connections can be even more difficult. You're also being evaluated and assessed on various different ways and measures that you're not used to. It can be very, very difficult. So I think we're constantly battling this kind of unsteady path, and it takes time to adjust. And even people who've lived here for 15 plus years will say that, yes, exactly, it isn't the easiest place to live, but it is also the place that builds your resilience tenfold. And I once told by a supervisor that one of my previous managers, that the experience you get working in Dubai is equivalent, it's like 10 years worth 1 year working in Australia or wherever else you're from, just in terms of the complexity, the intensity, the workload, the productivity. It's on a completely different level, and that level of intensity is difficult to manage, but we really need to work very hard on kind of recognizing when it gets too much and seeking the support from our loved ones and creating our little community within that we feel like we can get the support from.
I love that. I wanted to have like 2 plugs before I move to Hiba. So the first one is about the community. I think that's why we're here. We can share ideas, and it gets even more fun after the panel usually. But the second plug is, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong, on January 30 in Abu Dhabi, we are doing a session on the book, The Culture Map. Anyone read it? Awesome. So this whole idea of cultural diversity and all of that, you guys will be exploring it. So in Abu Dhabi, so check out the meetup, and it will be super interesting. Okay.
I want to add to what Rebecca said. I think I used to have that anxiety about, I'm not going to be living here forever, so why do I bother creating a home for myself here? But I think now I've realized that you can create a home wherever you want. And for now I live here, so I will create my home here. And when I move somewhere else, then I will create a home there, but now I'm here, so you create your own home, and you can add whatever makes you feel home to your apartment, to your surrounding, even on your desk, like a picture of your loved one, anything that would make you feel home. You need to put that as a priority and try to be deliberate about making yourself feel like you're home, because this will make a difference.
I love that. Okay, to end it, I want to hear one last message from you. It could be a lesson, it could be a tip that you learned and helped you, anything. One last memorable lesson. Start with Hiba, then Dr. Rebecca.
You're gonna start with me with this?
Yeah, I want to start with you. If you want to think about it, let me see with the audience. Anyone wants to share a lesson that can help us? Yeah, please. Anyone other than Chris? No? Okay, Chris.
Sorry for hogging the mic. It was just something, my own kind of, I guess it's my kind of North Star. I didn't think of it that way till tonight. And it kind of reflects nicely on what you were talking about. For me, part of that journey through life is I always see, maybe this is because I'm a video gamer and I also worked in that industry for a while, I see the different aspects of my life as kind of like, almost like levels or bars going up and down. So you can have, your love life is maxed out, amazing, okay, I just got married, I'm super happy, super cool, you know. Your health is okay, maybe it was down a little bit, and I'm constantly trying to get all those things to be at a nice level, not perfect, but just all at a good level. But it only takes one of any of those aspects of your life, friends, family, health, money, work, love, whatever you want to put into those main categories. If one of them drops to a significantly low level, everything else just kind of tips with it, you know? And I think that kind of just, to me, resonates with what you were saying about the North Star and just reflecting on these things, and back to the point of being in Dubai, my first 2 years here, which is what a lot of people do, is I'm going to go there for maybe 1, maybe 2 years, see how it goes, and then not go. And I kind of had to find my way here as well. And the thing that I realized with that transitory place that Dubai is, the thing I struggled hardest with was making friends. Friends that were going to stay around because they tend to move. I made a friend, this person I really like, okay, great, oh, they're going back to the UK, they're moving back to Australia. You start again, right? And then I realized that I had certain aspects, but that balance was really, really low. So, but
We should do a meetup on friendship.
friendship. But to finish that off and that story, my birthday soon, I'm having a house party, and I managed to invite 15 people, but that to me is huge. I have a huge network of friends who give it to me. That was a massive thing, you know. I'm fortunate to say some of them are here, but I'm just really proud of that. Because I think every single person I invited, I want them to be there. It's not just a, you know. So you can do it. It just takes a little bit of time, and I've been here the exact same amount of time as you, Albert. So there you go. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Back to the question.
Lesson.
I think the biggest lesson that I've learned from my journey was to normalize asking for help, and not carry all the load alone. So that's the biggest lesson that I've learned.
I love that. Thank you.
Tricky one, so many to pick from. I'll keep it short. I think whenever you're feeling really distressed and very negative, that inner dialogue is very critical. It's important to ask yourself, if my best friend or my closest friend or my loved one was sitting next to me and telling me about this problem, what would I say to them? And how is that different to what I'm saying to myself right now? Because oftentimes we're a lot more compassionate, kind, patient, loving, positive, reinforcing to others than we are to ourselves. So treat yourself like you're your own best friend.
I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm gonna end with one of mine to close the loop of my story. So I told you in the beginning about that place, or that principle, which I now call the untouched point, right? And I learned a lot now. I want to integrate that. So what is that untouched point, in my view at least, that you should never allow anyone to touch? And I reached the conclusion that it's this. never let anyone or anything destroy your view of life or of yourself. To me, that's untouchable. Like, you can hurt me, I can be stressed, I can have burnout, you can take my money, you can do anything, but you will never take away my view of life and of myself. So never let anyone take that away from you. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Amazing, thank you.
Now we party.